Shalom, this is Daniel, and today we're going to talk about the lesson of October 7th, which was very clear. Intentions don't matter, only capabilities do. For 40 days, Operation Lion's Roar has methodically dismantled the Iranian threat, from its navy to its nuclear infrastructure. While the world debates narratives of survival, the facts on the ground tell a different story. Is this the end of the Iranian Empire as we know it? For years, the IDF has ignored the terror monster that rose on its borders, focusing instead on whether the enemy intended to attack it, or if it was in their interest to do so. Similarly, while it is tempting to dwell on the sentiments in Tehran, they are of no importance. The only question is whether Iran currently possesses the capability to pose a real threat to Israel. The answer, after 40 days of war, is less than they had 40 days ago. In terms of results, Iran promised it would not sign a temporary ceasefire, and it signed. It claimed the Straits of Hormuz would not open, and they are now expected to be opened. It vowed to include an end to the war in Lebanon, and yet Hezbollah suffered hundreds and even thousands of fatalities. This is what remains of the Iranian axis that once struck terror into the Middle East. The Iranian victory narrative, encouraged by vast sectors of the international media, claims that Iran survived 10 rounds against the heavyweight champion. The question is, what that survival is actually worth. Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, God rest his soul, utilized the draw with Israel in the 2006 Second Lebanon War to receive a blank check from his Iranian patrons and build a resistance axis. So now, what will Iran do with this feeling, whether real or feigned, of survival? Following Operation Amud Anan, Pillar of Defense, every available Iranian real was invested in rebuilding the ballistic missile array, which was perceived as the only response to Israel. The result was a relatively quick restoration, but also immense public outrage that was suppressed only through a massacre. Currently, there is much to rebuild and far fewer reals. Should they buy a new navy, an air force, invest in missiles, rebuild Hezbollah, which is groaning under a heavy deficit, or invest internally to calm a population whose situation has only worsened? The state of the former Iranian Empire is dire, and there are no signs of improvement on the horizon. The Gulf states, attacked by Iran, have not forgotten the lesson. They are not like Israel and the West, which are accustomed to rounds of conflict every year or two. Generations of Emiratis, Qataris, and Saudis will carry the trauma of running to unprotected areas while tourism, stability, and energy went up in flames. Israel will benefit from this anti-Iranian coalition, which was forced off the fence by sheer power, and it is unlikely to return to it soon. One can only hope that Trump and Netanyahu are binding the Gulf states into a more stable and public alliance for the benefit of future generations. The temporary end of the war also marks the opening of the parliament election campaign. Netanyahu, who hoped to ride the collapse of the Iranian regime all the way to preserving his rule in Israel, faces a more complex task than he anticipated when the operation began. There is a sense of bitterness among the public regarding the gap between the hopes for regime change and the mid-game results. The greater challenge is actually on the northern border, where public sentiment is difficult, and rightly so, following promises that Hezbollah was defeated. Opposition leaders recognized this well, competing to describe what they called a shameful historical failure, hoping voters would connect with that more than with Netanyahu's promises of absolute victory. For the Prime Minister, toppling Iran in the coming months is a mission of supreme importance for his political survival as well. Everyone hopes the Iranian regime falls quickly. Netanyahu would be glad to see it fall, if possible, before October 27th of this year. So, what have we gained so far from Operation Lion's Roar? And this is just a partial list. 1. The elimination of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. 2. Elimination of dozens of top-tier, second-tier, and third-tier officials within Iran's political and military leadership. 3. Destruction of the Iranian Navy. Approximately 150 Iranian vessels destroyed, accounting for over 90% of their fleet. 4. Destruction of the Iranian Air Force. Dozens of planes and helicopters destroyed, including transport aircraft used by Iran to smuggle weapons and assets. 5. Destruction of the vast majority of Iran's air defense systems. 6. Destruction of most ballistic missile launchers and the majority of Iran's ballistic missiles. Destruction of the missile cities as well. 7. Destruction of the Iranian military industry in all its components, with emphasis on the production chains for missiles, UAVs, nuclear capabilities, and more. 8. Destruction of the vast majority of the steel industry in Iran, a vital source of income. 9. Destruction of the vast majority of Iran's petrochemical industry, another vital source of income. 10. Destruction of national infrastructure, bridges, railways, several power stations, the gas facility at the South Fars Island, and more. 11. Destruction of hundreds of Basij and police centers throughout Iran. 12. Destruction of dozens of Iranian Army and Revolutionary Guard bases. Destruction of hundreds of weapon depots. 13. Strikes on Iran's leading international airports. 14. Elimination of approximately 10,000 members of the regime's forces. Additional collateral effects, which of course are mostly positive, are 1. Unprecedented strategic standing. For the first time, Israel conducted a military operation on an international scale in cooperation of unprecedented scope and depth with the world's #1 superpower, while NATO allies remained outside the operation. This is a significant upgrade to Israel's status, emphasized military prowess and proximity to the U.S. Israel has become the leading and preferred ally of the United States. 2. Technological superiority. Israel-made weapons and defense systems proved superior on the battlefield. An increase in international demand and acquisitions is expected. 3. Gulf realignment. Increased hostility from Gulf states towards Iran and a narrowing gap between the Gulf states and Israel, a significant strengthening of the bond with the United Arab Emirates. 4. Regional deterrence. A significant blow to the head of the snake. The neighborhood bully has become far less threatening. 5. Hormuz alternatives. The importance of creating alternatives to the Strait of Hormuz has been sharpened. Infrastructure projects in this field will likely receive a significant push now to weaken Iran's grip on the strait. 6. Hezbollah containment. Israel continues pushing Hezbollah beyond the Litani River despite the ceasefire. This effort remains unimpeded There are now more aircraft available for the mission following the ceasefire with Iran. So in summary, the road ahead remains long, but the head of the snake has been severely wounded. Whether the Iranian regime falls before October 27th or continues to wither from within, the regional deterrence has been restored. Make sure to like and subscribe as we continue to track the shifts in the north and evolving alliances between Israel and the Gulf. Shalom, and God bless you all.